Hey loves, I heard some of you wanted to know a little bit more about collaring culture. And no, a collar is not just something that you put on to look edgy or punk, although at least not in the BDSM community. Let's get into it. There are two main reasons why you would place a collar on a submissive. The first being during play or something temporary like a scene, maybe you're doing some pet play, maybe you just want a way to lead your submissive throughout the scene or during the scene. And the second is to indicate a commitment. That's right, a commitment. Different roles and relationship dynamics determine what kind of commitment you're making. First is the most extreme of dynamics, which would be a total power exchange. So this would be your situation like the master, mistress, mixtress, and slave relationship. But it can also take the form of maybe a pet and an owner, or whatever your roles may be. In this case, the dominant is making a commitment to control everything about that submissive's life, and the submissive is consenting to it. They want their dominant to dictate everything in their life, down to what they wear, what they eat, things like that. And this obviously requires a ton of trust on the part of the submissive. And you need to be sure that this dominant is ready for such a commitment. Collaring a pet, a puppy, a kitten, a pony, a bunny, whatever the case may be, is also making a commitment to be their owner. Collaring a little or an age player or an ABDL is making a commitment to be their big or their daddy or mommy or caretaker of some sort, and on and on and on. And I think you get the point. Obviously, the boundaries and details of these relationships or these commitments are determined by the type of relationship you have within your dynamic. You are making a vow to be responsible to this submissive. You are responsible for the nurturing, the growth and development of this submissive. And they, in turn, are making a commitment to serve and worship you. And mind you, love is a form of worship. For instance, is this a platonic play partner, or are they your intimate or romantic partner? Many people will collar their spouses or significant others, and this is obviously showing that they are committed to not only their romantic relationship, but to the DS dynamic for as long as that relationship holds strong. When collaring a platonic play partner, the act of commitment is still just as valuable. You are saying that although you don't have sex with this person, you are not intimate in that way with this person, you are still committed to the relationship that you have with them, the dynamic that you have with them. And you're deeply committed to their safety and yours, and the relationship that you have formed. Essentially, collaring a submissive is like giving them an engagement ring. This is why it's so important to understand the role of collaring, or the act of collaring, when you are first entering the BDSM community. You are making a commitment to them just as they are making a commitment to you. You, as the dominant, are responsible for someone else's psychological welfare, their physical welfare, and sometimes their financial status, depending on what type of dynamic you have. I have seen many, many dominants who are just entering the scene, and they will collar submissives way before it is safe to do so, not realizing what responsibility they've taken on. For instance, imagine you are new and still learning about the dominant role, or trying to figure out your place in this dominant role. And you start to play with a submissive who has much more experience in the community than you do. And they know what collaring means. And within the first 2 weeks of meeting them, you decide that you're going to give them a collar, and you say that you're collaring them and they're yours now. Now imagine within a month you decide that maybe you're not cut out for that type of domination or that type of dominant role. And maybe you've seen some things in the submissive that you don't exactly mesh well with, and you're feeling exhausted, and you don't know if you can carry on this relationship. Now imagine you breaking it off with them or taking your collar back and ending the dynamic before it really gets a chance to bloom. And now the submissive is devastated because they know what the significance of that collar is, and you may not have taken it as seriously as they did. Now you've essentially taken your ring back and you've broken their heart. Collaring a submissive too early is irresponsible. Now, we talk about the dominant giving a collar to a submissive a lot, but I don't think that something that we talk about often is the fact that that submissive can also accept or reject that collar. If you are presented with a collar and you think that it's before that dominance time, at least with you, or you feel uncomfortable with the thought of that because that collar means something to you, you can also say that you do not accept that collar because you don't think that it's the right time. You have every right to say no, or maybe later. Again, BDSM dynamics are about power exchange, meaning you both have power in this dynamic. So how long is a responsible amount of time to wait before collaring a submissive? That's really up to you in your relationship. It could literally be 2 weeks, or it could be 2 years. I personally recommend waiting at least 6 months before you think about collaring a submissive. A healthy DS dynamic is built on a foundation of trust. 6 months of time allows you to better understand that S-type. It gives you time to learn each other, maybe develop a unique safe word, learn your limits and boundaries, and more. What does your submissive look like when they go nonverbal? Does your submissive know what you need without having to speak or repeat yourself? Have you developed your own personal nonverbal cues for when you're in public, in a noisy place, or during a scene? How deeply do you trust each other? Is your submissive truly loyal to you? If your submissive is working on receiving a collar, they will be doing their absolute best to try to demonstrate their loyalty, meaning they won't be going out playing with other dominants without communicating with you. And they will respect the boundaries of your agreed upon rules within your dynamic. Some submissives will just ghost after a while without any kind of explanation. Some people believe that they know that this person is the one after 1 day of knowing them, 2 weeks of knowing them, and this isn't to pass any judgment on those people, because to each their own. But I personally believe that 6 months at least is a good chunk of time to allow you to be absolutely sure of the commitment you're about to make. Not every submissive who crosses your path, gives you tribute, or you play with has to be yours. Too many own submissives can become overwhelming. And as a submissive, not every dominant you find attractive must be yours. You must be certain that you can trust this person with your physical and mental well-being. A lot of trauma can be brought up or created through this type of play, and this is why I say that kink education is harm reduction. A collaring ceremony is similar to a committal ceremony. Some dynamics will even go as far as to throw an event similar to a wedding as a collaring ceremony. As long as you commit to your dynamic before a seasoned witness, seasoned in BDSM, your ceremony is complete, but your collaring ceremony can be as unique as you are. The last thing I would like to discuss is different types of collars. First, there are fashion collars, and these do not hold any significance in BDSM and are generally worn as fashion pieces. This would be your spiked collars, chokers, things like that. There are play collars or temporary collars like the posture collar, which is not recommended for long-term wear, and choke chains, which are also not recommended for long-term wear. Then there is the O-ring collar, which is a standard collar. This can either be worn every day or strictly during play. And then there is the day collar. And these are generally more discreet than most collars. They usually look like a necklace with the O-ring on it, or it can come in bracelet form. And last but not least, there is the eternity collar. And if you are looking for a much deeper level of committal, the eternity collar is for you. The eternity collar is usually locked by the D-type or dominant and the key placed in their possession for eternity. The collar never comes off unless allowed by the dominant, although I would recommend taking it off at least once a week for hygiene purposes to get underneath the collar and also to give the submissive a break. These two sometimes come in the form of bracelets or cuffs. Well, I hope you have a better idea of what it means to give or receive a collar. Stay safe out there, take care of each other, and remember you're not broken, just a little bent.